Now, in the politics scene of things, the court of public opinion has proven rather important. It is there, but it is there that a battle may be lost or won, and there seems to be playing out in the case of ANC Secretary General Ace Magashule long before his matter is settled by the courts. Joining me now to discuss this further is political analyst Aubrey Matshiqi, who will be unpacking the elements of this. Very good morning to you. Thank you so much for your time. You've been writing in a series of your tweets talking about the importance of the court of law versus the court of public opinion. Now, looking at the dynamics at play here when it comes to how we witnessed Ace Magashule going into the Bloemfontein Magistrates Court yesterday, inside his composure and what was being said outside of that court in terms of him not being the motive here being a political motive and not really getting supporters to speak to the criminal element and the crime behind this matter. What do you make about that very important balance when it comes to this case?
All right. As I say in the tweet, the court of public opinion is an apex court in our politics. And what we must bear in mind, experience from the past has shown us that political processes tend to run faster than legal processes. Bearing that in mind, it means the protagonists in a political battle who are facing criminal charges have to win the battle politically first before they can win it in a court of law. And if they do so, there is a possibility that they may be able to arrest the process leading to what may become their conviction if they are found guilty. So what I expect here are battles that are similar to what we saw prior to the Polokwane conference in 2007, at which time what we saw are supporters of former President Jacob Zuma, arguing that former President Jacob Zuma is a victim of political intrigue. And they mobilized around that theme. And as you saw yesterday, mobilization will be around that theme and other themes, including the theme that the ANC is infiltrated by apartheid spies. And what is important about that is the fact that you do not have to name those apartheid spies, because each individual who supports you must have a particular face in his head, despite the fact that you have not named the individual. Thereby, you can mobilize against that individual. And I suspect in this case, one of those faces that the supporters of Ace Magashule will have in their heads is that of President Cyril Ramaphosa.
In fact, we saw supporters burning the T-shirt of President Cyril Ramaphosa. I mean, you know, looking at the symbolism behind that, what do you think that really is speaking to? And especially as we recognize and are aware that from yesterday, the factional lines were really drawn.
Well, that too is not new. In the battle between the so-called Zuma camp and the Mbeki camp, we saw the supporters of Jacob Zuma burning T-shirts bearing the face or the image of former President Thabo Mbeki. So in that respect, what we saw yesterday with the burning of T-shirts bearing the image of President Ramaphosa is not new. So it's very clear that those who support Ace Magashule, and it may be his intention too, we don't know, seem to have taken the view that the chief conspirator in the political conspiracy against Ace Magashule is President Cyril Ramaphosa. And bear in mind that in these battles, the truth does not matter. What matters are the ends to which you can put an allegation. So it does not matter whether the allegation that certain people in the ANC, perhaps the president himself were former apartheid spies. That does not have to be true. What is important are the ends to which the political opponents of those who are suspected to be part of this conspiracy can use the way in which they can use that allegation against those opponents.
In assessing the strength of the political opponents, you also say that this case may catapult him to the presidency of the ANC or result in his political demise. What do you mean by that?
Well, again, we have parallels with what we saw prior to Zuma. So you have a man, Jacob Zuma, facing corruption charges, and later he faces rape charges. And his supporters argue that he's a victim of political influence. In his case, a court of law, Judge Chris Nicholson finds that indeed there is a conspiracy against Jacob Zuma. By the time the Supreme Court of Appeal finds otherwise, politically it's already too late for former President Thabo Mbeki, because politically has already been dealt with and he has been removed as president of the country. Now, what we have today is a similar situation, where the supporters of Ace Magashule will try very hard to portray President Cyril Ramaphosa as the chief conspirator and to mobilize against this. But there's a difference, or there are certain differences between the period leading up to Polokwane has a higher approval rating in the media and in the public domain. In fact, his approval rating is higher than that of the party. So in a sense, in the period leading up to Polokwane, the protagonists were fighting to gain control over an ANC that is still credible. Today we have an ANC that has lost credibility, and therefore they are fighting for something that is becoming thoroughly discredited in the public domain. But discredited or not, it is a tool they can use to achieve narrow political and economic ends. And therefore, discredited or not, the ANC remains something that the protagonists must gain control over.
Thank you so much for your time. We're going to have to leave it there for now. Political analyst Aubrey Matshiqi there giving us a sense of the impact of what we saw playing out outside the Bloemfontein Magistrates Court, what it means as the discussion of the court of law versus the court of public opinion and the impact that it could have on the overall case.